Hello, everybody, and welcome to We Say Things, episode 7, currently sponsored by Noble Chairs. Thank you, Noble Chairs. We love you.
Dun, dun, dun.
As always, I am a SUNSfan, joined by the great syndereN, otherwise known as syndereN. Dota, how's it going? How are you?
I'm good. I just showered.
I can't say the same.
No, but we've talked hygiene before, and I bring my A game for this, this podcast. So.
I'm glad. I'm sure people really appreciate it. Anywho, as always, this podcast is available on pretty much every podcast app, whether it be Apple, Google, Spotify, etc. Just let us know if there's something missing. And give us good ratings, guys, because it really does help. Speaking of ratings, syndereN.
Give us good ratings, whether we deserve them or not.
Yes, that's true. If you like us,
anyway.
give us a review. Give us 5. If you don't give us 5
stars anyway.
Yes.
I hate these guys so much. On a scale from 1 to 5, I hate them by 5 stars.
I think that's perfectly fine. Okay, so why don't you read off the first couple reviews from this week?
Where are these from, by the way? Is this all from the same?
Yeah, this is all from
page?
Apple. Because I could be wrong, but I have not found another podcast app that you can rate stuff like this. It's the only one I can find. So let me know if I'm wrong about that, but go ahead.
All right. So the first one is called Since Day One, 5 stars by FC Dota. Been a fan of both syndereN and SUNSfan for a while now, and I have to say a podcast with both of you is a pleasure to listen to while I work on Tuesdays. With SUNSfan's shenanigans and syndereN's insight, looking forward to future podcasts. Best of luck from Seattle. I like that you never get credit for insight.
Thanks, Valve. Thanks, random Valve employee. Appreciate it.
We got another one from Rman906. Quality entertainment, mostly 5 stars. Unfortunately, one is an imbecile and the other doesn't know how to use microphones. All right, which one do you want to have out of these two?
I mean, I already know which one it is. I mean, I know how to use a microphone. So.
It's up for interpretation. Okay,
I'm
I'll
the
take
imbecile.
That one. Even so, 2 vividly different personalities provide entertaining banter. Until it isn't. I still haven't forgotten the circumcision incident. If you're Dota-minded, this is worth a listen. It's free. It's a really good transition. I haven't forgot the incident. If you're Dota-minded, by the way. P.S. I believe they missed an opportunity by not calling this podcast Horsing Around.
You can blame syndereN.
Right?
Yeah, you can blame syndereN. syndereN shot down every horse idea. The only thing I could get was the logo was a horse, but what can he do?
Basically, it was beating a dead horse, okay?
Yeah, pretty much. All right, next one is from Mike, my boy. Okay, I did that right. PogChamp, 5 stars. I rate this program 5 out of 5 horses, by the way, Lycan. Thank you so much, Mike E., my boy.
This
Last
program.
one from this week. Yeah, it's like a radio program. That's what I think of when somebody says that. Last one of the week is from Josh Ferks. What a podcast. 5 stars. The chemistry between SUNSfan and syndereN is like the first time chocolate and peanut butter combining. Both were meant to be together. I enjoy the random on-the-fly segment creations as the podcast builds. What if syndereN had his own segment where he talks about what new albums or artists he's checked out recently? Boy, I couldn't think of something more mundane to listen to.
Interested in.
Jesus Christ, I don't want to hear that garbage. But anyway, thank you for the review.
Yeah.
Your suggestion's
we don't have much overlap in music either, I think. Not
yeah,
that much, at least.
That's probably true. Very, very true. Okay.
You only listen to like country. So.
No, that's definitely not true. Okay. We can get into that sometime, actually. That would be an interesting topic, the differences between us when it comes to music. All right. Anyway, as people are watching live on Twitch, thank you for joining us every week, Tuesdays for now. It's live at 2 a.m. PST, 11 a.m. CEST. And, of course, you can find it later at sunsfan.gg/podcast. Okay, syndereN, compared to last episode, this should be a shorter one, but we've done this before. We've extended.
It will be. There is no way we filled 2 hours out with this.
You never know.
It's not possible.
You never know. Okay.
Well, unless your rant is like an hour and a half. I mean, I'm ready.
So the rant, there's no rant. So we can always skip by that. I do want to give an update about the Aghs power ranking. I did a lot of observing and production for the WePlay tournament that was last week, and because of the ridiculously long hours, I didn't really work on the Aghs list at all. But fret not, I'm working on it now. And what I want to do, syndereN, is come out with like a rough draft, show it to you, and I want to show it to like 2 or 3 other pros. I don't know if they're willing to go through the list, though. That's the thing. Like, I'm going to message people like
I don't know if I
No-Tail.
am either.
You're going to. Okay, you've already offered your services, and you're a man of your word. So
understood. Yes.
So that's what I want to do.
I'll go
but
some of the list.
It will take some time. It's a lot of mundane work. Let me just say that. Okay. Did you watch ESL One Birmingham? Because it was on the opposite schedule of the WePlay tournament. I didn't get to watch any of it.
I did watch it.
Tell me about it, please.
I watched quite a lot of the games. Well, I guess, if you want to start with results, the top 3 is not particularly surprising. Secret, LGD, and EG got the top 3s. EG got to the grand finals this time. They actually got there through the winner bracket. They were looking really good this tournament. They pretty much aced their group stage. They went 8-2, and they were 8-0, and the last series didn't matter. So they were like experimenting and lost both games, so it doesn't really matter. And then into the winner bracket, I think they won. Did they win 2-0 in every series in the winner bracket too? No, they 2-1 TNC Predator, and then they 2-0'd LGD. And then in the finals, they met Secret, who they lost to 2-3. That was a really close and very exciting final. The games are super good. You should go watch them if you're curious.
I am curious.
And Secret had a rather slow start to this tournament. They actually started in the lower bracket and came the whole way through lower. They got 3rd place in the group. They started in the group with EG, to be fair, and LGD, the other 2 top 3 teams, right? So it's a pretty hard group. But yeah, Secret started a bit slower. They'd been taking apparently a 2-week break and hadn't really played much, so they needed to play themselves warm again, and they managed. So they're still the team to beat, it looks like. They just grew so much during those few days of group stage and into the lower bracket, and then there you go.
How much would you say this last patch affected the meta from your perspective?
Quite a bit. Like, the game is still the same, but the picks are different. And what I mean by this is that we didn't have like any big map changes, right? Like new shrines or shrines removed or locations or new items or stuff like that. So it's still largely the same game with the same terrain. There was a few minor changes with trees and stuff, but don't really matter that much. So the way that you play the map is still the same, but obviously hero tweaks and some of the general tweaks that we talked about last time play a role in how you do laning. We started seeing some more tri-laning, for example, which we haven't seen that much of lately, but there's been multiple teams tri-laning.
That's why I've been seeing in my goddamn pubs. God, it's miserable playing off lane against a tri-lane, dude. God, kill me. Okay, that could be my rant. Tri-lanes can be my rant.
Okay. So yeah, we've seen a bit more tri-lanes, and obviously the hero tiers changed a bit. There are some heroes that are bumped up significantly. Both Io is now in CM. That was like a first pick. Chen is back. If you look at you have Dota Plus, right? Do you?
No, I don't.
Okay. But if you do,
yes.
In Dota, you can go to the Heroes tab and you can check the global trends, and then it shows you the development of win rate over the last 8 weeks.
Oh.
And in the last week, Chen's win rate in pubs has gone up 15%.
Really?
Yes. It went up from 35 or 30, something like 35 to 50, which, it sounds balanced when it's 50%, but when you look at like the increase in win rate in such a short time, it's absurd how much.
Well, before this last patch, he was considered absolute garbage, though, right?
Yeah, sure, but it's also, it's also a little bit about like, do people find it fun? Are they actually good at the hero? Like, if a hero goes up 15% win rate in pubs, there's a really high chance he's insane and competitive, right? Because these people can play the hero to the limit. So a guy like Puppy got Chen in one of the games in the against LGD, and he just like completely crushed the game. So that was one of the changes. We've seen some Warlock come back. I don't know if that's something you're excited about, but he's starting to be good again.
Oh boy. Oh
yeah. There's a couple of things, but yeah, Centaur is still not very valuable. So there you go.
Do I look like a Centaur player to you? I've transcended to Pango.
Yeah, Pango position 4 is getting popular. Actually.
All right, can I just? I'd like to rant a bit. Actually, let's just bring.
Oh, let's go.
I absolutely. So this is maybe a little bit of a taste of things to come with the Aghs list, syndereN, and I'm going to be very stubborn with only a couple things. One of them is Pango Aghs, which I legitimately think is quite good, but there's one caveat to it. Okay, the caveat is the fact that pro players, the way that they play him is very difficult to watch as a Pango player myself, because I'm very greedy. You know how I play. I go for the deeps. I go for that high damage. You get the double javelin into Maelstrom, into whatever. I don't go pipe. I don't go Crimson Guard. I hate these items are the worst. You don't do damage.
Okay.
Damn it.
No, not as much.
So watching Pango in pro games makes me sad because it's not as exciting as it could be, because he can be a damage and a utility at the same time if you play him right.
Yeah. I mean, they do play to win, which you don't. So that's, that
I win all my
games. They will
games.
do the best thing, and you will do the fun thing.
I mean,
they don't play for fun in their
even
matches.
though you're making fun of me, I don't mind that. I like to have fun. Okay, I want to have fun. But anyway, the point I'm trying to make about Aghs, if somehow Aghs, how do I explain this the way I want to? So if people played him more DPS like I do, Aghs is incredibly good to buy like as an item.
Why? Is it because the Maelstrom for the swashbuckle, or?
Well, it's just the fact that, so the biggest issue I have when I play Pangolier as a DPS, right, is when I'm in that ball and I'm rolling around, I really want to swashbuckle, but I can't because it'll take me out of the ball. But this gives me the best of both worlds, right? And then you add that onto the fact that at 15, which is about the time you get your Aghs, you can get that talent as a 2-second cooldown on shield crash. You're just spamming that shit constantly. And if you're actually doing damage with your swashbuckle, it's actually insane.
But the Aghs is only good if you have damage items first, right?
Yes.
So you don't get it minute 15 or level 15.
Well, I do.
You would need a diffusal first, and then maybe even an MKB.
No,
right, for the swashbuckle to really hurt.
Okay, so this is from my personal experience. I can only rate on this, but double javelin into Aghs, I think is great. You never run out of mana. The stats are incredibly good for this hero. Like you don't run, you get the 3 mana regen talent and Aghs. You never need mana again. Maybe arcane boots if you really want.
That's pretty interesting. Just
I'm telling you,
javelin and not upgrading them. Sure.
It feels good. Well, you upgrade them after the Aghs.
Yeah. But you could get it. Then you could get it level 15. That's what I'm saying. Like you can hit that time.
Oh, you're not actually making fun of me. Okay.
No. Is it hard to tell?
I thought you were being very sarcastic, actually.
Oh, man, I've ruined it.
I hate you. All right, moving on.
Effect on people. They talk to me for like a year, and then they think I'm always just fucking around.
Oh, I thought you were going to say the opposite. They can never. All right. Well, either way, I actually think it's a good Aghs that it might not be good in competitive just because of the way that Pango plays, right? So it is what it is. Yeah. Anything else about ESL One? Oh, we can talk about the fact that everybody loved the tournament. The crowd was amazing. People are hoping that a major is there next year. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, it seemed super good. Obviously, I wasn't there in person, but just the experience from watching it on stream, the crowd seemed awesome. People were very happy with the other options that were there at the arena. You've done a good event when the primary criticism you get is that you need to hand in your bags. Like that was the most negative feedback they got, was that bags needed to be handed in and how expensive it was to keep your bag. Which,
you have to pay to keep your bag?
Maybe that's what funds the event, is taking people's bags.
Hey, they got to make money somehow, right?
Yeah. Actually, I just realized there's one more thing I wanted to mention about this tournament that I didn't do before. Gambit got 4th, which is a really good result for them. They're the second best team in ZIS, arguably behind VP. Some would say right now that they're maybe better currently than VP. VP were not at the LAN, so there's no, you can't directly compare from this event. But yeah, Gambit got a very respectable 4th place after beating Liquid and Vici Gaming. And then they ended up losing to Secret in the lower bracket. But
and that's
they
the
lost to the
eventual
winners
champs
of the tournament.
Yeah.
So they did very well, and it was cool to see. FNG seems to have taken this team kind of to the next level, and they also qualified for the next major in Epicenter. So that's going to be cool to see how well they do there.
Cool.
Yeah. Okay. I think that's it for Brum, as they call it.
Brum?
Yeah.
Yeah, I would love to see more events in the UK because the crowd does seem to be, it feels like almost an SEA type crowd, right? Just very into it. You don't get that pretty much any other country. Like if you go to Ukraine, for example, you'll get that if there's a Ukrainian or a Russian team even, or any CIS team. But like SEA, it doesn't matter who it is. They're super into it. And for ESL One Birmingham, it was kind of the same.
I think English sport culture is just like that, kind of. Like
the soccer culture?
Yeah, they grow up with this sports culture, right? With like watching sports in pubs and going to the game. Football is obviously huge in England. They have some of the best teams in the world. So like the majority of this audience is male, right? And English. So they've probably grown up with caring a bit about football. And Yeah, I think that just translates and transfers over, honestly. Like if you're part of sports culture, you're also gonna bring part of the way you celebrate sports culture into esports, right? It's just natural. So I think they love cheering for plays, they love being loud and energetic, starting chants,
Well, I think it's also the
which
fact
is
that
really
they've
part
kind
of
of
the atmosphere,
been
right?
they've kind of been deprived of events, right? Not many events in general in the
Well,
UK.
yeah,
I feel like.
so was France, but the MPL major in Paris was not very successful
I mean,
crowd wise. So
I can't. I don't know the areas that well, but it could have been just not the right city to do it. You know,
I don't know. I mean,
there might be
Paris is
better
pretty
cities.
big,
It is big, but like I don't know the
so
actual location and how. I don't know. It like if it's in the
it,
U.S., it depends on where it is, right? In the
oh,
U.S. for
for
it to
sure,
be
I
a
would
big
definitely
event.
agree with that. I mean, if you're having a major in France, I don't think you have a better choice than Paris. That's what I'm thinking.
Hmm.
Like, because first of all, it's a huge city, right? There's a lot of people there, and if you look at do I want to go there as a tourist or not to be at this event? You're like, oh, it's in Paris, you know. Then you want to go because it's Paris. So I feel like that would probably draw more international
So
people in.
what reason do you
But
think
still,
is then for that one?
I don't know. I think it's a mix probably between pricing. As far as I know, the tickets were pretty expensive to go to the Paris major. Maybe time of the year. Maybe the timing was worse than this. I'm not entirely sure how much that would have played in.
Hmm.
I guess traveling to Paris is also more expensive than Birmingham, at least for some of Western Europe. I think traveling to the UK is generally relatively cheap with flights. I guess Ryanair, for example, flies a lot of UK. Like I'm just kind of guessing here, honestly, but I'm just trying to imagine like what the reasons are. And then of course, I guess for a lot of people, maybe it's like a what do you call that? A stamp of authenticity that it's run by ESL, right? Like then they kind of know what they're gonna get. If they've been to other ESL events, they know okay, this is how these events go. So maybe there's like something familiarity factor.
Right.
Somebody in chat is saying it was in a tent, so the heat was horrible. That obviously doesn't help, but it doesn't. I don't think that. I don't know how much that influences people buying the tickets. I don't know how much information they had about.
Yeah.
How the
Did
venue
people
was gonna
buy
be like,
tickets
where
and
it
just
would be.
not show up? Is that the thing? Or?
Yeah, that's the question, right? So I don't know, but yeah, I've always thought like Dota in France is very little, but I thought it was in the UK as well. I was honestly very surprised how filled the crowds were this Birmingham and the previous one. I did not expect it to be that popular. There's a lot of people in the UK, but they've never had a single pro player in Dota 2. They have personalities though, which I don't know how much that pulls, like Red Eye and Pyrian, and this time we had T Governor on the panel as well. Actually, I'm forgetting one more UK guy, Shane. There's one more. It's not coming to mind right now. Like mainly the hosts, right? Machine is UK. OD Pixel. There it was. That was the one I was forgetting.
OD Pixel. Yeah, true.
Yeah, I don't think he was there though. Actually, at least not casting, right? I could be wrong, but I don't think I heard him. I'm not sure.
Okay.
Anyway, okay, that's enough about Birmingham. Let's move
on. We don't need to spend too much time on this because I know it's a smaller tournament, but I do have some interesting things to talk about from my perspective, at least. The WePlay Tug of War Dire took place, as I talked about earlier, this last week, and I did observing and production, which is like 13, 14-hour days of just straight like streaming, essentially. Newfound respect for observers, by the way. This is going to sound really bad. I think generally observing at an okay level is very easy, actually, past the 5-minute mark. The first 5 minutes are so fucking stressful because you never know. Sometimes you never know where these kills are coming from. Like, there's always this caster cursor, like, oh, this is the lane we don't have to worry about because there's no way anyone's going to die. And they always die in that lane somehow, right? Especially in these regions. Yeah. But this was kind of a smaller tournament. It was kind of a qualifier for a bigger land. So it's 2 regions, South America and America combined into one, and SCA and China combined into one. And the winners of those 2 would go on to the 300K Ukraine land that's coming up. So for Asia, RNG beat Neon Esports 3-0.
Was that surprising based on
like,
how the tournament
So the Chinese region was much stronger at SCA. And RNG actually looks quite good. I was obviously a lot of big names on that team. Neon Esports, they look pretty good.
So the way this worked was that there was a Chinese side of the bracket and an SEA side of the bracket, and then the best Chinese and the best SEA met in the grand finals
Yes.
only. So there was no crossover apart from
Right.
that. Okay.
Correct.
Yeah.
So there was a little bit of a drama with like servers and whatnot, especially in the South America region. I think Infamous and Pain were supposed to meet at a certain point in the semifinals, but there was some controversy over the server because the rules were changed or something like that. I don't know the exact details. So Pain just didn't show up for their match. They boycotted it. And as a result, Infamous went to the finals to face J-Storm, who I would consider the heavy favorite, and J-Storm got stomped 3-1 by Infamous. And Black played, oh my God, dude. First of all, his Kunkka is God tier Kunkka. And the last game, the deciding game, he played a Tidehunter carry, which is like my dream in pubs. This is what I do in pubs. You've seen this, I'm assuming. It is insane.
I know how it works. Yeah.
Unbelievable. You got Desolator, and of course the 40% XP talent to get to the 250 damage. You got a crit stick, all that stuff. Dude, it is dirty. It is actually super dirty if you have the right lineup.
It's good. I've played against one in a competitive game, actually. I played against Nisha's Tide in the qualifiers for, what major would that have been? 2 majors ago? So MDL maybe? I'm not sure. But yeah, he played carry Tide as well in that match.
Why is it not a thing? Why is it not more common?
I don't know. I think part of it is just that it's a bit niche or niche.
Why? Yeah, why though? Well, it's either. Both work.
Because it's not really a stereotypical carry hero, right? So the carry players and what they practice and what they play in pubs and what they're accustomed to, it's very different in playstyle from that. So I kind of feel like you need a player who either you need a captain who's like, okay, we're gonna play this, you're gonna learn it, and you're gonna love it, or you need to discover by yourself that this is fun and you enjoy it.
So to be clear, Black did play at mid. I said, it's essentially a carry tie, but he played at mid.
Yeah.
So you're saying it's more player issue than the hero itself. You think the hero could work?
I definitely think you can play carry tide in a lot of games that it doesn't get picked. He's
I
technically good against almost. God, sorry about that. I need a bit of water, I guess.
How dare you?
He's good against almost every melee carry in the game, right?
Oh yeah,
Anchor Smash just breaks them and is really strong against them in lane. But yeah, looking at this bracket, I don't know, man. I feel like if Pain hadn't boycotted this, they might have won.
Possibly.
They definitely could have won. So
I think
that's a pretty strong stance to take. I mean, I don't know what happened.
Well, J-Storm,
I'm not sure how much you know.
They're going through a little bit of the usual NA shuffle, and with any NA shuffle, it ends up Demon as a part of their team, and that's just the normal thing for every team when they're going through shuffles. Demon's always takes part at some point. I mean, come on, dude.
Everybody retires.
So they obviously haven't played that much together. But I mean, Fear and Demon have played a lot together in the past, right? So they're at least familiar with each other. But it's kind of a random collection, right? You got Resolution, you got Moo, the old DC squad.
Wait, did Demon play in this tournament?
Yes, he did.
Okay.
Yes, indeed. Some questionable plays at best. But I don't know. I was definitely expecting them to win because on paper they just looked better. I've never seen either of these teams play on a competitive, like with these lineups before. So, but Infamous looked pretty good. Not too shabby. All right. Okay. So we're going to talk about the one drama of the week. We only got one spicy nugget today, syndereN.
Sun's Nugget.
Yes. The collector's cache came out, or the vote, I should say. There's 83 sets. You go in game, you vote, upvote or downvote based on how you feel. The cool thing is you can see the set and you can play with it in like demo mode. So they've never done anything like that before. It shows all the artists' names, which is awesome. Which, by the way, there's one guy that's literally on 20 sets. I don't know how that's possible.
What?
I'm not even kidding. It's 15 to 20 sets. It's the same guy. He's like part of the team. I don't know what he does, but that's incredible. Anywho, the drama is...
He makes sets.
Yes, but I don't know, like, does he do the art? Does he do the models? syndereN, can you please stop derailing me? So people don't know how the workshop works, I don't think. So we need to explain this. So the way it works is you submit the set and you submit the set to the workshop and you put all the names you want attributed to the set and select the percentages for everybody. Okay. Once that's done, it's in the workshop and you can't really add anything else. You can update the set technically, but you get a private message from Valve a lot of the time telling them something like needs to change or just letting them know that the set is going in the game. If you get a message from Valve, it's getting in the game. That's how it always works, okay? If you get a message from Valve, I shouldn't say that. It's 98% of the time. Very, very likely it's getting in the game. So what happened this time, all these 83 collection of people, they got this message from Valve. They all assumed, like, oh, great, so it's coming out, this collector's cache thing is coming out tomorrow. Very happy that our set got in. Then Valve announces the day of, when it comes out, that it's a vote. So it might not be getting in the game. They thought that they were getting in the game, but it's not the case. So they're very angry about that, which, you know, I mean, Valve and communication, those two things don't really go together. But that's kind of the issue right now from the workshop creator's perspective. What are your thoughts on this?
Well, I want to add one more thing about this that could be problematic, okay? But I'll get to that first. So first off, like, better communication, right? But this is almost like a broken record. They should have known in advance that this is how it was going to be, so they don't. Like, that feeling of excitement into getting your dreams crushed is almost worse than just getting no message, right? If it turns out that they don't get in, it's kind of like you got excited over nothing. That feeling kind of sucks, right?
Yep.
I mean, it depends how you look at it. You could also say, okay, we got featured. Like, it was definitely good enough because it got featured and got up for voting, but it still sucks, right, when you actually think you got in the game. That's one thing. The thing I want to talk about is how the sets are presented in the game, because I think there's a little bit of an element of luck with which order your set shows up in the list.
Right.
There are 83 sets to go through.
Is it the same order for everyone, though?
I don't know. Can you boot your game quickly?
Okay.
That's a good question. Because what I was thinking was, if this is a set order, then I think being in the middle of the pack or in the last third is a clear disadvantage.
Yes.
Because people aren't going to scroll through all of these 83 sets. So that would
What's
mean
your
that
first
your placement in this troll.
Aghs.
And then Visage. Okay, so it's randomized. Good.
Yes.
That was my biggest concern with this. If it's randomized, which order they appear in, that's very good. I'm glad they thought about that, because that is definitely, you know, I think it should just be random every time you boot the client or something. What shows
I think
up
it
early,
is. Yeah, I think
like
mine's changed.
Yeah, that's good. Good. That was my concern with it. Then it's only the thing I just said. Because imagine if it was a set order and it was the same for everyone. It would be so unfair. If you're like 50th, there's going to be so many less people seeing your set. But that's great. Then we probably have a lot of votes on all of them.
Yeah, I think so.
Good to know.
I mean, I love the idea of the vote, honestly. I think it's a really cool idea. It's just, I mean, this doesn't even feel like drama because it's just so clear cut. There's no other side to the story. Like, you just got to communicate.
The communication just needed to be better, right? So that they know what was happening in advance instead of getting excited over getting in, right?
Yeah.
It feels like when they submitted the sets to the workshop originally, there was no mention that they were going to be up for a vote. That's the problem,
Correct.
right? If they knew that was what would happen, then that would be it, right? Yeah.
And I wonder how many sets are getting in.
You'll know in the future now.
Yeah,
right?
Probably. I'm interested to see how many sets get in.
Collector's cache, probably like
40.
15, right?
I don't think so.
Isn't there two caches? Oh, wait, no.
There's two caches, and each of them have like 15 to 20 sets.
Yes,
so here's the
right.
thing about the collector's cache. So the artists aren't really making that much money off of these because there's just a ridiculous amount of sets in these caches anyway. It's just like a little extra income for most people. And probably 50% of these sets are getting it. So my guess is that the other 50% will get in at some other point, honestly, down the line.
Yeah. It's so many sets. I don't know if Valve wants to flood the game with that much in such a short time span. Like, putting in this many items is already a lot.
Right.
But yeah, I think you're right. There were two caches last year, right? There was the Collector's Cache 1 and 2, and they each had 15 normal sets, 2 rares, 1 very rare, and 1 ultra rare, or something like that. Something
along those lines. It's been the last 2 to 3 years have been the same, like a lot of sets. So
yeah,
I do want to have like a workshop
letting
talk
the community
in
vote
the future.
is honestly, I think there's one thing to this that's pretty interesting, because we've had this like discussion, right, in the past with the community, like, how far out of character can your cosmetics go? Like, can we have the cowboy hat Ursa back or whatever? And I think the interesting thing about doing this is that the workshop items or the workshop artists can experiment with these things, and you can see what people want. this is basically Valve can kind of test the limits of what the mentality is right now. Like, is anything too ridiculous?
Oh, but you can
'Cause
vote
I
in the
think
workshop any normal time, though. You're just saying they're kind of forced to almost because it's in the
way
client.
it's way more visible. I guarantee you, there's so many
No,
more
that's true.
people voting on this than not. If they wanted to encourage it more, I think this wasn't introduced, right? There's no achievement for voting.
Exactly.
Is there?
Yeah. No, there's
But
not.
they could have made it. They could have made an achievement: vote on 10 sets, and vote on
Oh,
all sets would have
all
actually been
sets.
great, because then everybody would go and get involved, right? Then they would get so much data. I'm actually surprised they didn't do that, but maybe they didn't think about it.
Well, I think some of the data will be kind of fake, I guess is the best way to put it, because if you just want to get the quest done real quick, you just upvote everything or downvote everything. It doesn't matter.
That's true. That's misleading.
Right? So you get some not great results potentially, but at least everybody votes. That's got to be a small percentage of people that would do that, I feel like. But who knows? Anyway, the whole workshop, I want to have a very long discussion about this in the future. I'm not sure when. There's a lot to the workshop.
I'm just thinking, okay, I just want to pick your brain on this. How could you make this an achievement in the game where people don't just go to a random set and upvote it and then they're done with it? Like, how would you get real votes if you incentivize it? That's actually a really good point. Like, can you actually even do this? Was it actually the better move to not give it an achievement? Because then the people that vote actually care. If you make it an achievement, everybody's just going to go and cast whatever. There's like, fuck this, I don't care, man. Just give me my points, right? So maybe this was better in every way. Like, I'm trying to think of...
I can't think of one right now at all.
Incentivizing people is good, but only if you can, like, check that they actually vote for stuff they care about. So,
right.
Yeah, I don't know. Okay. It's probably for the better what they did, so I take that back.
I mean, either way, it's still a test bed, right? It's the first time they've done anything like this. So
yeah,
they can take the data and
it's true.
Look upon it next time. Okay,
very true.
Moving on to the actual last topic before we get into fun stuff to talk about. Dota Auto Chess came out with a custom game pass. I'm going to read what it says in the graphic.
No, wait. You have to do it in your voice.
Which voice?
The voice you used last time when you read out Underlord's lore.
Really? Can I do a redneck voice? That might be a little...
Sure.
Maybe switch it up every time.
Okay.
I feel like people won't understand what I'm saying. All right.
Go for it.
Do you know what a redneck accent sounds like? Because mine is very exaggerated, but...
I have a feeling.
Golden border of your avatar, golden paint of your chat message, golden effect of your damage projectile.
Okay.
Daily first win bonus, 5 bonus candy for your first top 3, and 5 bonus candy for your first top 1. Okay, that's more like what is that from? Okay, I feel like that's from something.
I don't know. I'm blown away by how pronounced your F's are when you do.
Right to vote for the special chess pieces, including new chess pieces, and chess pieces need to be rebalanced. A baby Roshan Courier as your chess player on your first purchase, huh? Tell you what, very good. 100% of the game's content will remain available to free tier players. And premium players just receive these quality of life benefits and support the game's development, okay? It's getting more...
losing syllables now.
Well, I haven't practiced that one in a while, but the way that people talk when they're really a true hick, they stop enunciating correctly and just everything melds together. Like, something like that. So, anywho, you get all these benefits that you probably couldn't even understand if you buy it's $1, right?
I don't know.
It's $1 a month. So it's very cheap. And you get like these little cosmetic, you get a courier, like I said, and just little different effects from other people that don't. So what are your thoughts on this?
This isn't the first time Valve has done something for a custom game, right? What was the last one?
It was like a Roshan something. I can't remember the name. There's been a couple, I think. It was a long time ago.
Yeah, there's been a couple
of,
I think. Yeah. There was this tower defense, right? That got was that the first one that got it? Element TD, I think, got some.
Did they get one?
I think that was the first time. For some reason that's coming to mind. But anyway, I think it's fine. Like, it's a popular custom game. People play it. Valve can monetize it. The developers get, I don't know what the cut is, but regardless, it's just like, why not? Rather, like, what's the argument against this?
I think I could be wrong about this. I'm not 100. I think they get the full $1. I could be wrong though. I don't know where I heard this. I feel like they get the full $1, but if it's like the workshop, like Valve keeps 75%.
That would be the only thing in Dota that Valve doesn't take a cut of then.
Correct.
Historically, they've taken a cut off everything else. So that would be very special.
That's not true. Autographs.
The
newer way that they do them.
Technically, yes, but at the same time, people are buying the treasure.
Right.
You can't buy the autograph without the treasure. So
Correct.
Valve still, in a way. But yeah, I mean,
I don't want to claim something that might be wrong. I'm just saying I might be wrong about that, but I feel like I read that somewhere.
Okay. That would be very unusual and very surprising, honestly. I thought maybe there was a different split than the classic workshop split, perhaps, but regardless of who gets the money, like, what's the downside to this? Do you have one? I can't really think of anything bad about this. So
I mean, it
incentivizes people to make games.
Yeah.
If you get selected, if you make a good product that people love, there's a reward, even if you don't release your own title. And yeah, it's just since you're not paying for any advantage, I don't have a problem. If it was pay to win, I would have a problem with it, but it's not.
So the only thing I want to bring up, and I know that I feel like I'm being such a negative Nancy with everything, syndereN. I'm trying not to be negative, but this does feel like that extra mile by Valve to make sure that people are okay with them. So look at it this way. They're going to come out with Dota Underlords or whatever it's called. It's going to be auto chess. I could be wrong. I feel like no one is going to play auto chess. They're going to be playing whatever Valve comes out with. This is like I'm sure that those guys got paid, so they don't care at this point. I could be wrong. This is all speculation. I feel like they got paid. They're happy, and Valve's going to come out with their own game, and then this one will be obsolete, so to speak. So this is just like a way to,
that's a fair point. I mean, it's very possible that they're doing it to, I don't want to say make amends. That almost feels like it.
Yeah, no, I know what you're trying to say. I don't know what the right description would be for something like that. They're just trying to make sure it's like the PR move. It's a very PR thing,
right?
Yeah,
keep good relations, and I mean, nothing wrong with that, right?
No, it's great. It's fine.
There's probably a reason behind this that has dollar signs on it, but it's a business, so I think that's totally understandable.
My opinion is Drodo, number one, I'm pretty sure they're really rich right now. So I think three things happen, and I could be wrong. Again, this is all speculation. When they sold the rights to the auto, I know that they're not working on the mobile game. They licensed the IP, so they got a shit ton of money from that. That's almost 100%. Number two is this Game Pass, which will help, I'm sure, give a little bit extra income. I don't think it's gonna be
so this goes to
ginormous
Drodo.
amount, right? Okay. And then number three, what was I making a list for? I literally forgot what I was talking about.
Aghs.
God damn it. Shit. What am I listing here? The custom game. And then the fact that Valve most likely has paid Drodo for the rights, kind of, to make amends or to appease them so that they can just come out with their own version, right?
This is what I'm a bit unsure about, what it says in the terms of service or whatever you want to refer to with Dota 2 is if you make a custom game and you put it in Dota, what rights do Valve own? I don't know this, but
I'm pretty sure Valve owns everything. I'm almost positive Valve owns everything.
Because then technically you could say they could just be like, okay, it's our game, and not pay them anything for it.
Correct, but that would look terrible, which is why they're doing this. This is the reason they're doing this.
I just don't know. I don't know how it works. Like what ideas. Because maybe, according to the terms of service, there are some things that Valve own and some that they don't. But I don't know if they just own everything that's in the game.
I'm fairly certain they own everything that's in the game. Doesn't matter.
Including just said you typically can't copyright a gameplay, just the assets.
Right.
But all of the assets in the game are from Dota.
And they're going to be changing the game probably to a point where it's at least a little bit different. I mean, there's a lot of fine lines here for sure. But the point is that Valve is trying to, make sure that they're playing this right so nobody gets upset, which is great. And I think the other thing, Drodo, I'm fairly certain that they're swimming in money right now, so I don't think it matters to them either. So it is what it is. I don't know. Of course, we will probably never know.
Be swimming in more money.
True, that is true. All right.
Valve is also swimming in money. Did you know?
They print money. Actually, they have their own currency. It's called Steam Bucks. It is quite lucrative. Let me tell you. All right.
Valve coin.
So those are the only topics for this week. So I thought we'd do a couple of just random questions, syndereN, and then we can kind of wrap this up. Tell us something about yourself that people don't know. potentially.
Okay.
I wrote this and I
I've been
didn't
at-
even think of my own answer yet, so I'm gonna think
Well,
while you
I
tell.
can go first then, because I can tell the one that I generally tell when people ask me this.
Okay.
So I'm like, what interesting thing can I tell about myself? Because my life is so mundane and boring, and nothing ever happens, right? But what I can tell is a story from elementary school. So in Denmark, I don't think you have this in the U.S., but in 1 year of elementary school, you get mandatory swimming classes as part of school. I don't know if all schools have this, but a lot of them do in Denmark. I don't remember which grade it is, but anyway, we had this elementary swimming class, and to my knowledge and in my memory, my parents have not taken me swimming before this. Okay, which I guess is pretty unusual. Like most parents take their kids swimming, right? So I go to this swimming class and I have like no experience. I don't know how to swim. And the first day is obviously just a fun thing. It's not like really learning anything. It's just free swimming, they called it, where you take all of the, do you call them bathing animals or whatever, and throw them
What?
into the
Bathing animals.
what do you call them? Like the like let's say for example you float around on something that looks like a duck, right?
Oh, so just some
what would you call
flotation
them?
device. I'm sure there's random names for them.
A float animal. I don't know.
Sure.
Floaties? Let's call it a floatie.
Floaty?
Okay, let's just call it for that. Yeah. So there's like different ones of those.
Wait, sorry. What did you call it before? What
a
did
bathing animal?
What the hell is that? Do you put that in your bath? Have you done that before, syndereN?
No.
Okay, move on.
I haven't.
Continue.
It sounds. Yeah, it's true. It doesn't make much sense. Maybe swimming animal then. Whatever you want to call it. So basically there's like these, they're like different shapes and sizes or whatever, and obviously what do you call if you're in a swimming hall, what do you call it a basin that you're in?
A what?
What's it called?
A swimming
like
hall?
if you're in a swimming hall, right, and you're swimming, what do you call the thing you're swimming in?
What is a swimming hall?
Okay, let's like can you not go swimming indoors in the US? Like don't you have like sports halls that have swimming? Okay, we would call that a swimming hall. I guess you don't have that word.
We just call it a pool, I think.
A pool. Okay, a pool.
Is that what you're referring to?
Yeah.
Okay, I thought you were talking about the building. Okay,
when I hear a pool, I think about the one you have outside in your backyard.
It's the same thing. Oh, it's yeah.
Okay, well, a bigger one I thought had a different name, right? Whatever. Okay, so you're in the pool. Well, we're making this really complicated for no reason. And obviously, when you get out to the middle of the pool and beyond, you can't touch the bottom anymore with your feet. And I don't know how to swim. So
deep
we're
end.
Just doing this free swimming. Yeah, the deep end, right? We're just swimming around, and when time is up, we obviously need to get to the edge again. And I'm out in the middle basically, and I fall off. And I'm at the deep end, or at least relative to my size at the time, I'm at the deep end. So I can't, and I don't know how to swim. So I start bumping up and down, swallowing water, like blacking out basically. Kind of you go full panic mode. And I got a lot of respect for things like that after that happened. Like it gives you perspective. And when I was bumping up and down, I was screaming for help, right? I was screaming, help, help. And then one of the girls comes over and grabs my hand and pulls me up. And she's like, why didn't you just touch the edge? Like, I was at the edge of the pool. I could have just grabbed on and pulled myself up. And that's what's fucking crazy about panic, is that your body you just lose control of what's going on around you. It's so obvious, right? Like you can just grab on and you're good. But I was crying for help because I had no idea what to do. I was just total panic mode. So she pulled me up. I felt horrible on the bus ride home. I swallowed so much water. I slept. The moment I got home, I lay down and slept for a couple of hours and felt a lot better after. But yeah, that experience, I've had a really hard time since then. I learned swimming very little over that year because when it comes to like back swimming and getting my head underwater, I feel really uncomfortable. It's like basically a traumatic experience, right?
Wow.
So I never, the teachers were trying to convince me to try back swimming. I refused. Like I just couldn't let go. I couldn't do it. So we just tried a little bit of basic stuff, staying over water, swimming a little bit.
Right.
But yeah, that was something. I guess you didn't know that about me.
No, I did not. That's interesting.
I had that experience.
So do you go swimming? Like, is that a normal? Let's say you were over here.
My girlfriend loves swimming. Okay, she's like, let's go swimming.
Right.
Let's go swimming. I was like, I really don't want to.
But do you
we've
ever?
Gone a couple of times. I mean, we've gone before to one of the swimming halls, as we call them in Denmark. We've been there, and she enjoys it a lot. I don't enjoy it that much, but we've done it a couple of times.
Okay.
I still think I should probably give it a little bit more of a shot and try to convince myself to learn it a bit better, because maybe I would enjoy it, and I think it's also just be good, you would feel better about knowing for sure how to swim in case it would ever become necessary, right?
Right. No, that's very
but yeah.
interesting. So have you been to the beach before? Any beach?
Yes, we have.
And you've been in the
beaches all
water?
over Denmark. Yeah, I have. I haven't been swimming though.
You've just been like just walking around
Yeah,
in it.
I have no problem being in contact with water. I have no problem touching water or whatever. It's the sensation of getting my head underwater.
Right.
It's this even when I shower. If I I mean, for everybody, I guess it's a bit uncomfortable to just splash water into your face, right, directly from the shower head. But I think it's just a little bit extra uncomfortable for me because it just triggers something. I think.
So if
I
you're
really dislike the sensation.
if you're in a pool or the ocean and let's say you're like neck deep, you don't have to put your head under. Are you comfortable swimming in that way? Or is it still a little bit? Is it literally just putting your head underwater? That's it.
I think it's literally just putting my head on. I have no problem wading out as far as I can without submerging myself completely.
Right. Wow.
In my experience, even also in the halls, no problem. But yeah, it's interesting, and like I said, it gives you some perspective on other things, right? Because in a way, maybe this is like relatively harmless compared to what other people can experience with like trauma or panic and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But it gives you a little bit of insight. Like when you've tried something like that, you can understand why people react the way they do to certain things. Where for some other people, it just feel like that's absurd. Like how does that make any sense? But like you get weird, man, when things happen like that. It's very eye opening. So in a way, that's like the positive takeaway from that was that I had an experience like that and it wasn't worse than that because it gives you some perspective on things. So,
that's interesting. That stuck with you a long time too.
That's my story.
Wow.
Yeah, it's been how many years has that been now? More than 15.
Yeah, that's
like
I would hope
it's almost
so.
20 years ago, I think. Yeah, something like that. Like 17 years, 17 maybe. Oh, anyway, your turn.
Okay, well, mine's going to suck in comparison because all I could think of was this. I guess I could add a story in between, but maybe you can answer this question. This is something that people may not know about me. I've lived in 3 countries before. 1 for 10 years, 1 for 6 months, and then the third has been for the rest of my adult life thus far. The rest of my adult life.
Do you want me to guess?
Yeah,
Am I guessing
go ahead.
here?
Yeah.
Okay, so the longest is the U.S.
Yes.
10 years is Saudi Arabia.
Yes.
And 6 months is... Man, where would you have lived for 6 months?
I don't think you're going to get this one. I'm almost positive.
I'm just thinking. Okay, time to look up a map. World map.
I can... Okay. Would it be easier if I give you a region?
Sure. Yeah, you can give me a hint.
Europe.
Oh, you did live in Europe.
It's only 6 months, though.
You're really cultured American. You know Europe is a region and not a country. That's very good.
Well, I don't want to narrow down too much for you.
I mean, you might even have told me this once, but it's not
probably
coming to mind.
It's just in passing. All right, you want me to narrow it down even more to an actual region?
Sure. Yeah.
Mediterranean area.
Okay. Greece?
No.
Okay. I'll only get one guess. Or
Cyprus.
Cyprus?
Yeah. So
6
here's
months.
the story. I guess I can do 2 stories. So I lived in Saudi Arabia for the first 10 years of my life. I was born there, actually. I'm half Iranian, though. I'm not a Saudi Arabian, technically. I just lived there. So I'm half Persian and half American. And when we lived in Saudi Arabia, you ever heard of the Gulf War, a.k.a. Desert Storm? This was in like 1992 or something like that. Mm-hmm. They had to evacuate like all the U.S.-based people in that area just because they didn't know what was going on. So we relocated temporarily for 6 months to Cyprus, where I went for part of my, I think it was first grade, I want to say. And I apparently picked up an English accent while I was there. That's what my parents tell me. So
they almost disowned you then.
Something like that. No, Cyprus, I still consider, I don't know. I went to Croatia last year and the year after, and it reminds me a lot of Cyprus, which is a very cool place. So, but random story from Saudi Arabia.
You were like 7. You were 7 when you were in Cyprus, and then you came back to Saudi Arabia again after half a year.
Yes, correct. Okay. So in Saudi Arabia, if you want to hear a crazy story from Saudi Arabia that just randomly popped in my head, living there was really interesting because everybody that we associated with was English speaking. It was an international school. Most of the people were like Indian, Pakistani, some Americans, but everybody spoke English. We had what do they call them? Like a Christmas-themed play, which the students, I was just in the crowd watching, students playing like Santa Claus and all these characters, whatever. I don't remember the specifics, but the one I do remember is Santa Claus.
Ah, yes. Nothing like Santa Claus, the true Christmas spirit. Yes.
Yes. You have a problem with Christmas, bro? Best holiday. Best holiday EU.
No. It's fine. Go on.
Which actually is funny because when we were in Cyprus, it was during the Christmas time as well. Not to hijack my own story, but Santa Claus is the first skinny Santa Claus I ever saw. That's when I started questioning, wait, Santa Claus, wait, what? How is he skinny here? I don't understand. Makes no sense. I couldn't process. Anyway, back to the play in Saudi Arabia. During the play, something really scary happened. The doors of the auditorium like burst open, and these guys with guns, they're called the Matawas. Have you ever heard that before? Matawa?
No.
They're like these, apparently they're not in power anymore, which is great. But back then they had a little bit of power. They're like considered the religious police, okay? They always have like these really long beards, and they carry around literal AK-47s. They burst in and they object to the fact that we're doing a Christmas themed play because obviously it's like we should.
We're gonna abduct Santa or something.
No, it's not that bad. They object to the fact that it's Christmas themed and that it's during prayer call and all that stuff. That we should have the lights off and all that garbage. They go up to the stage and they literally pick the kid up by his collar like this in the air. And all the parents get outraged and they start standing up and a couple of them get into fights. I remember being like very terrified as how old was I? Maybe like 8 or 9 years old or something like that.
Yeah, that's what the fuck?
Yeah, living in Saudi Arabia, it was,
Wait, so why did they do it?
Well, I told you why. They objected to the fact that it was a Christmas themed play.
Oh, they object. Oh, sorry, I misunderstood.
So there's five prayer calls a day in Saudi Arabia. Okay, it's a very Muslim country, obviously. So during prayer calls, which is just fucking constantly, but it's so annoying living there. But you hear the prayer call constantly, and you're supposed to turn off the lights, and you're not supposed to interact with people. Like even if you're not a Muslim, you're not supposed to be doing it. Like the shops are not allowed to be open. So a lot of times we'd be at like a Chinese restaurant eating, and they turn off the lights, and we just continue to eat in silence. Like even though we weren't allowed to eat technically during that time, they'd assume that the store was closed, right? The restaurant.
So how long does this prayer call last?
It's like 10 or 15 minutes, 5 times a day. It's brutal, man. And you can hear it everywhere. And I remember just these memories are flooding to me now. There's one time it was so funny. Because the prayer call is always the same thing. It's like, Allahu Akbar. Allah, stuff like that, right? I don't speak much Arabic anymore, but back then I did, a little bit at least. And one time the guy had a horrible cold, and I could not stop laughing because this is literally how it sounded. Allah, and he's just spitting loogies constantly, and you can hear it for miles. You can hear that shit for miles. It's like the guy has like bronchitis or something, and he's still doing prayer calls. So that was pretty funny. So that's some of my Saudi Arabian experience. But I wish I could. Apparently, I'm not allowed to visit. I don't know if that's changed. But when I turned 18, I got to choose between being a U.S. citizen and a Saudi Arabian citizen.
Oh, you couldn't have dual citizenship.
No. And I chose U.S., obviously. But I would love, maybe not now, but I would at some point love in my lifetime to visit again because I do have a lot of fond memories of that place. Okay.
Do you think, so when was the last time you were in Saudi Arabia?
10 years old. So 95.
Do you think, I mean, I don't know how much you've like kept up with this. Do you think it's very different from how it was back then? 25 years is quite a long time, right? Do you feel like if you visit, you will be disappointed or excited? What do you think?
Oh God,
if you were to, I mean, if you thought you would be disappointed, you wouldn't go, I guess. But
I'd be scared right now. But I heard this was a few years back. I heard that in our old school there was a pipe bomb explosion or something like that. So Middle East is pretty scary for me, especially since well, that's another story. Anyway, moving on to the last thing.
No, I have one more question. I'm really interested in this because it's something that's so far from me. Do you think, so if you're like, how do I explain this? If you visit Saudi Arabia, you will still be, a foreigner. do you think coming back after 25 years puts you in a better position than someone who's just a complete tourist that's never been there before, in terms of like how people perceive you and receive you? Is it a good thing being returning, or are you seen as someone who left the country who was, like
No, I don't
they
think
look
anybody
down
would
on
care.
that?
No, I never felt it. God, it's actually so hard to remember some of the details, but I remember like a certain segment, like the kids, the Saudi kids, they didn't like us foreigners. They would have games where they would literally throw rocks at us. That was their favorite pastime. In terms of like the
Great.
adults, I couldn't say. I didn't really know many adults. We had a couple of good friends that were Saudis, but they have a lot of problems that country, and so much of it is ignored because of the oil. Right, the U.S. always gets a lot of oil from them, but it's gotten slightly better. Like I think women are allowed to drive now, for example, which is great. But it's been like this is not a joke. Back then, you weren't allowed to drive if you were a woman, but this is not an exaggeration. Sometimes you would see 10-year-old boys driving. 10-year-old boys.
Okay.
They could barely even see over the steering wheel. It's insane. It's actually insane. But
Okay.
it's another world. I'll just say that.
Well,
all right, so
I could drive a bike when I was 10.
Yeah,
so
congratulations.
Just a little bit of an upgrade. It's not
But you could barely swim, so it kind of
It's true, but I also wouldn't plan on driving into the water.
Yes. No.
On a bike or a car. Yeah.
Okay, last thing.
Moving on.
Random question of the week, which if that wasn't a random one, this will be even more so. I don't know how to phrase this without affecting your answer, but we're going to do it anyway.
Okay.
How do you think the world will end? And I mean this in terms of, do you think that we will expand, the human race that is, expand to other planets, solar systems, or will we not get that far? Ever?
So when you say the world will end, you mean the end of humanity?
Yes.
Or
not,
the end of Earth?
No, not, yeah, sorry. I should have rephrased. The human civilization, human race.
Okay. How will human civilization end? I feel like we will be able to expand. I think that will happen.
Okay.
But if we don't, I think the most likely reason we don't expand is that we destroyed our environment. I think that's the most likely cause for our extinction. If it isn't, like, it will be self-caused. Okay, that's my point here. Is if the Earth gets destroyed or we become extinct before we travel to another planet or somewhere else, it will be because we have completely destroyed nature. Yeah, but I personally have a positive outlook that, especially when it becomes apparent enough, we're getting there. Okay, there's a lot more, there's a lot more push for environmental change now than there was 10 years ago. At least in terms of
that's true.
In terms of voters, for example, in Europe, the green parties are exploding with voting. There are so many people that make that the number one case, like mainly young people, right? So our generation will obviously, in 20 years, we will be, the next generation will come about, or however you want to look at it. And if they get raised by us, it will become way more of a key talking point over the next 20 years than it has in the past 20. And then the question is just if I don't think that will be too late. I think it can still be solved if people start taking it seriously. And it's slowly what's starting. It's kind of exploding in terms of how much attention it gets, but we'll see how fast the solutions come about. But yeah, I'm optimistic that we'll do that and then we'll expand. So,
Okay.
how will we end then? I don't know. Like, it's a bit. If we do manage to get to other places in the universe, it's totally imagination. It's like limitless, right? You could technically go anywhere then.
So I'm trying to remember the thresholds. It's solar system, then it's galaxy, then it's universe, right?
Correct.
In terms of, based on as far as I know, and this is not much, but based on what I've read, on the current ideas that are out there, it is not possible to get to other galaxies because we are constantly moving at a speed of light away from everything else. So it's only possible to visit right now, in theory, places in the solar system. Wait, just the solar system? Is that right? I can't remember. Whatever the next threshold, it might be that one as well.
Galaxy?
Yeah, it might be galaxy. So
I don't
universe,
think galaxies. I don't think that moves at the speed of light. The universe expands at the speed of light, right? But I
Yeah,
think you can still move within the galaxy with.
I probably butchered
I'm
that,
not
but
too
you
sure.
know what I'm trying to say. So what
Yeah,
I
yeah,
think
I
will
get it.
happen, number one, I actually think I was thinking less about the environmental issues. I think we're gonna nuke each other.
I was thinking that too as a possibility.
I think that's how we all die.
But I
Honestly,
don't. I don't think that will kill everyone. Because I mean, it is theoretically possible, right? I mean, you go ahead and finish first your thought.
no,
I
that's
shouldn't
a good
interrupt.
point. It could just wipe out like 95% of people in theory,
Yes,
right?
and then the world
some
doesn't
people
end,
underground, right? Okay,
right?
so all right, so that's one aspect that I was thinking of, which is very
Mm-hmm.
possible.
It is very.
The other one, which this one I feel like, let's say that we're not just going to kill each other. This is how I feel, and this is going to sound very sci-fi, and I know people. I don't know if the reaction is going to be. I actually think that this is inevitable, is going to happen. That
Okay.
humans will at some point be replaced by robots, AI. I think that's going to happen completely. At
So that
some
will be
point,
the end of the human race then.
yes. I think it's like, I'm not talking about in the next like 50, 100 years. I don't know how long it would take. Because first and foremost, to expand to other planets, you're going to need AI. You're going to need these robots to actually be doing all the shit for you, right? And at some point, now, I do think at some point that we will try to make like hybrids, right? Where they're already doing some small things where you essentially combining humans with AI, right? You're putting like stuff in your body. I'm sure there's a lot more stuff that's going to be coming out in the future as AI is actually becoming more of a thing now. But eventually, I feel like that's just going to progress. Like, why is a human, to put it this way, syndereN, if AI can get to a point where it surpasses humans, what's the point of being a human then, if you can just be AI? You know what I mean? Does that make sense to you?
If the AI has all of the human qualities in addition
But it's just better.
to something else,
Right. It's just better in every way.
it's basically evolution then, right?
That's what I wanted to bring up. Do you consider that evolution? Because it's no longer us technically when it's just AI, right?
It kind of it's a bit difficult to answer because it depends on how you do it, right? Like let's say for example now if you compare humans now to humans like long time ago, however long you want to go back, there's obviously been some evolution just based on and like what environment you're in, you accustom yourself to whatever, this it's kind of like selection that ends up happening. So if you consider AI implementation and using humans as a part of AI as a natural selection in a way, right? Then it is technically an evolution of the human race. But if the two are completely separate, we like program them and give them human qualities, but there's no like actual humanity in it. That it's kind of philosophical, right?
It's not a black and white thing.
It kind of depends.
Sure.
It depends on if you're talking about evolution in general or natural evolution, right? Because the natural evolution is brought about by some sort of development with the human race. But you could, you're basically, if the AI is a better version of you, it is an evolution of you, right? It's just not a natural one.
Yeah.
If that makes sense.
So it would never be a natural evolution ever, right? We're talking about something just replacing us, essentially. And there'd be no point in us in general.
It's entirely possible.
Okay,
rate in order. Now I'm curious. Rate in order of likelihood, in your opinion. What is more likely to happen? We wipe ourselves out because of bad use of the environment. We wipe ourselves out with AI, or we nuke the Earth. Not necessarily that everybody dies, but a vast majority of the population.
I would say, wait, all right. So there's the nuke, there's the environment, and then what is the third one? The robot AI? AI taking over the world?
Yeah.
So it's weird to answer that question because I think the AI thing is inevitable, but will we get that far? Will we not kill ourselves by then, right? So then it's...
Yeah, what do you think is more likely to happen? Because that won't happen if we destroy the Earth environment first, right? Then we will never have the AI.
So
then
I'd say
it's not even inevitable.
The most likely thing that would happen is we, like, weaponry kill ourselves. Nukes, I think. Number one. Number two, so that's a tough one because the environment thing, it's hard to gauge how fast that will happen and how irreversible it will be and how if it will actually kill everyone or just like a mass, like the nukes idea. So I guess I'd put that at number 2, the environment.
Okay.
And the robots at 3. What about you?
Okay.
Like I call them robots.
I don't know. Yeah, the thing that's tricky for me about the nuke is that it feels like, the mindset that you need to be in for that to happen is almost unfathomable. But then I think about what else is happening in the world, and it doesn't seem that impossible after all. It's more like basically what's keeping the world together in terms of this nuke stuff is that, well, if you throw a nuke at some other country, they will detect it and they can fire one back, right? So there's going to be massive problems for your own country. You can't just like nuke someone else and be fine. And if you want to nuke everything, you also nuke yourself. So then you would wipe out. Your desire should be to wipe out all of civilization, basically, including your own, which is kind of insane, right?
Like when I say it could be nukes, it could be a virus, right? We didn't talk about that possibility.
True. That is true.
Because that might be even more likely than the nukes, honestly. Because that could be more widespread, easily. Yeah, that would be actually maybe number one, now that I think about it. Because we're getting to the point where...
definitely see that, too.
Like, think of the movie. I know it's based off of movies, but 12 Monkeys. That scenario is actually super possible. So some guy with a briefcase... well, let me preface this by saying that this will be a spoiler for a movie that is 25 years old. But... the idea is time travel, which I'm not saying that's possible, but that's part of the movie. But essentially the idea is that some guy with a suitcase full of a very deadly virus goes to an airport, opens it, and infects people that are just going all across the world, and they don't show symptoms until later, so they've already spread it everywhere, right? Which I'm sure there's a bunch of movies like Pandemic and stuff like that. That's a board game, actually. But same concept.
Yeah.
That's probably the most likely thing, actually.
Okay. Yeah,
because you can reverse engineer this stuff.
If you ask me to rate, I honestly feel like the environment is more likely than the nukes, personally.
Okay.
Because the nukes needs to be like, to even get to that point where you want to destroy, like if you want to let that thing break out, you know that you're losing everything yourself as well. I don't think there's going to be a nuclear war where whoever starts it doesn't get obliterated. I don't see that being like. Okay. It's hard to imagine. So if like for that to happen, it just seems like, even if you can imagine it, it seems so far from something that will happen compared to the environment where you look at data for what has happened over the last 10, 20, 100 years. You clearly see the patterns of what is like where it's going. And then it's about, well, what forces in politics or whatever get to have the say. And if we don't pay enough attention to it, that is at least something that seems possible, that we reach a state where it's like we're in denial long enough or don't make a big enough deal out of it until it reaches critical mass, and then it's too late. That seems possible.
Right. No, I understand your point.
To me. So that's number one for me. And I think the AI for me is also, AI taking over the world is less likely for me than the nukes, to be honest. I think that would be the last.
I think the AI taking over the world is more of a gradual. I'm not thinking like, oh, one day there's a sentient AI that can just take over everything. It's more of a gradual process where we start integrating more to our lives. It's like over hundreds of years potentially, and eventually it's going to get to a point where I don't know. Maybe I'm crazy.
I love when this podcast. I love this, man. We just So in Tug of War, RNG 130. How do you think the world will end?
I don't know. I like talking about this random stuff, and I wrote down something for next week that I definitely want to discuss. So it should be fun. Okay. So unless you have anything else, I think we can wrap this thing up, syndereN.
I mean, in conclusion, I'm happy for RNG, man. Yeah.
Good.
No, good stuff. I don't have much else. That was a good talk. Good job, everyone.
Yeah, great job, everyone. Thanks for participating. Make sure to send us suggestions on topics. Like, you don't even have to send us, the normal topics about Dota or whatever games. It can be random philosophical questions, for example. And I can look like the idiot, and syndereN can look like the smart guy. And that's how this entire podcast works. So anyway, thanks for watching. You ask for,
then. Anything is fine.
Okay, good. Just ask us anything. Leave questions. Thank you. Till next time, thanks, guys. Goodbye.